Want to know what your dog is thinking?
Have a challenging dog behavior you need help with?
The Dish on Dogs is your source for all your canine questions.
Improve your relationship with your dog and deepen your understanding of your furry friend. Right here on the Dish on Dogs. Welcome, everybody, to another exciting, breathtaking episode of the Dish on Dogs. I'm your host, Mike Gould, affectionately known as the mayor of Houndstown, USA. Houndstown, USA is home to the happiest dogs on earth. And I'm joined here by the lovely Jackie Bondanza, the president of Houndstown, USA. So this is remarkable that I have the president. I am the CEO, I found out recently.
I know you had to ask what your role was.
I had to ask.
And that is not a joke, folks.
That's not a joke. It's really my brain. So here, you see the human brain here. So today we're going to talk about, it's springtime, as how weather affects the behavior of your dog. And we're going to just break it down. It's always better, I always think, Jackie, that people understand why the behavior is. Once you understand behavior, then you can take actions to fix that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. We get a lot of phone calls and kind of queries from our customers that come in to use our doggy daycare about, some things that they see with the change of season, right? So we always talk about in the winter especially, I think dogs' behavior changes. And then as we get into spring, it changes as well. So we'll talk a little bit about what those behaviors are and again, why that is. And I think knowing why will help everybody be able to manage their dogs a little better and be able to predict to some degree, what to expect when we move through the year, basically.
Right. So I hate to keep using the word mammalian behavior, but I always have my human brain here and the little green mammalian behavior. So everything we see dogs do, we as humans, as mammals, kind of do the same thing. We have to adapt to the changes of season. So, for example, and COVID has really made this considerably worse. It's magnified. Right. The dog bite incident. So dogs right now, it's whatever season, we're approaching the spring. So every year, dog bites go up exponentially. And we already know that children are the number one victims of dog bites, 10-year-old children. So the question we should ask ourselves is why in March, April, May, that our phone, as you said, is ringing off the hook with tragic stories. My dog bit this person, he bit the kid, he bit the mailman, he bit the skateboarder. So let's take a little simple deep dive into why that's occurring.
Right. So I think we should start with talking about how do the seasons affect dogs overall, especially winter. So talk a little bit about winter and this concept of hibernation, and then we can move into talking about how that obviously is related to coming out of hibernation in the spring.
Right. So we always talk about dogs using their mouth to resolve conflict. They're predators, and they hunt and eat prey. Right. That's what they do. They live in a den. The den doesn't have windows. A den is usually a tiny little cave that you could barely see the opening. And so they haven't really, we talk about the evolution of dogs, and when we talk about that, we say they really haven't evolved much. So if you look at a wolf hundreds of thousands of years ago and a Alaskan Malamute or a Siberian Husky today, they look anatomically or physically pretty similar. So they haven't changed. Their canine teeth are designed to rip and eat things, eviscerate, right? So that's what they do. They catch a rabbit and they rip it apart and they eat it. And your dogs at home do the same thing. That's the animal predatory behavior. They run out, we get all grossed out if the dog comes in with a bird in its mouth or whatever it's doing. So this is hardwired into a dog. This is hardwired into a dog. So the winter, as you quite correctly said, and if we add COVID to it, we've been hibernating, basically, or denning, whatever words you want to use, not in the hibernating in the sense that like a bear is going to sleep for months at a time. But we're hibernating in the sense that we're not going out in the cold. When the ground freezes, there's less opportunity for prey. There's less prey, right? So
right, and a lot of other animals are hibernating too. There's much less activity in the winter for the dog to be stimulated by outside.
Jackie, Bondanza, you hit the nail on the head. This is incredible. There's less activity. So let's keep it simple without me going on and on about the mammalian brain. So our dogs are locked up. And the other thing we have to consider is how fast dogs are maturing.
Right.
So we humans, right, our life expectancy is whatever it is, 75, 85, whatever it is. A dog's life expectancy is a tenth of that, right? 10 or 15 years. So every week or month that goes by, the dog is almost a different dog. So if we think of this under normal terms, we get a puppy or we get a dog, and in November, December, it's getting so cold out, we don't go outside. 5 months later, in the spring, this activity starts. People are outside on bicycles, they're walking. All winter long, your dog wasn't exposed to any of that. So they're perched out, looking out the window, and everything they see, they start to bark at. And when they bark at, what happens?
Yeah, typically it disappears.
Thank you, Jackie.
Especially if you're in the house, if the dog's in the house watching
right.
out the window.
Right.
So nothing's staying static when they're barking.
Right. So it's cause and effect. Cause meaning, and this happens inside your house with the vacuum cleaner, whatever you're doing. The dog is triggered by something. In this case, looking out the window and seeing mom and dad walking through the neighborhood, and the dog barks and barks and barks. Then within seconds, that vision disappears. They're going down the street. The dog doesn't know that. What the dog sees is a terrorist coming in front of his den, his property, his territory. He barks, barks, and barks, goes away. Now, this behavior probably started in November, and every week and every day that goes by, it becomes more intense. Obviously, the mailman comes, maybe a snowplow comes, but it's far less activity. So now the dog has matured significantly. He's contained behind the glass or your front door. Now, come spring, animals are out, right? Squirrels, birds, everything's coming to life. Grass, everything is coming to life. So it's hunting season for dogs, if you think about it. Yep. Same as bears that have been hibernated. This is when they wake up and they go kill fish and whatever what they're going to eat. So springtime is hunting season, and for dogs anyway. So they wake up, or I shouldn't say they wake up, and they start hunting. So now, if the dog gets out of the front door by accident, because now it's going ballistic, it's biting at the window, biting at your storm door, you probably installed the picture window and the door so your dog can have a beautiful vision of your property.
And that's honestly a mistake that we see a lot of customers make, right? Because there's a misconception about socialization and exposure to stimulation, right? A lot of people say, and I've heard other so-called dog trainers say this, you need to expose your dog to, people walking down the street, bicyclists, and that is going to somehow improve the dog's understanding of what it actually is. And a lot of people allow their dog to perch and look out the window and bark and have a full view of what's going on outside the front door. That only exacerbates the problem, yes, right? Because the dog is not connecting the dots. Right. The dog can see a bicyclist go by 100 times. That's not going to help him understand how to change his reaction to that bicyclist.
Right. So precisely. So what I would say is a little bit of knowledge is dangerous. So yes, socialization is critical to a dog, a domestic dog, interacting with humans. So it's critical. In real estate, we talk about location. With dogs, we talk about socialization. But that doesn't mean what you just said, that if your dog's barking out the window, they don't even know what a bicycle is. A bicycle is just something going by at 15 miles an hour. It's an image they're not familiar with because they were never socialized properly. So watching something doesn't necessarily make the dog adjust or understand it.
Right. So it often it just makes it worse, because sometimes the behavior gets more and more intense as the dog gets older.
Right. Not sometimes, it absolutely does. And then what happens is the activity, again, going back to the activity. Now we open the front door. The door has been barking at the mailman now for 6 months in our life. And to him, in 3 or 4 years of his life, he's been barking at this terrorist we know as the mailman. He stops. The dog goes ballistic. The mailman disappears. Now, in the springtime, you open the door and the dog gets out. there's the mailman, and the mailman gets bit. This is why would you call this when something like the mailman, dogs bite mailmen, not because they hate government workers.
Well, it's a cliche, I guess.
Right, but well, it's the cliche, exactly. It's a cliche based on this. Mailmen's at a high risk of dog bites because they're the prey that comes in front of people's houses every day, all day. So yeah, it's not like they hate UPS men. It's dogs don't have that ability. What they hate is the perceived terrorist entering their territory that they don't want to fight, but they feel they have to because nature told them to go and take care of it, dismiss this threat.
Right. And we always talk about the fact that dogs are domesticated, right? They're brought into our homes. They're kind of taken away from their natural packs. And so we're expecting them to adjust to this completely new, unnatural domestic environment. But they still have to act. They're still not evolved enough to not act on their predatory nature. So this is the conundrum that a lot of our customers find ourselves in. So we talked about the spring and why there's more dog bites, and a dog might seem more active in the spring because there's more to react to, right? So
that's a good way of putting it.
So now, how do we fix that? How do people fix that?
Well, again, it goes back to the socialization. What happens with most humans, unfortunately, they wait till it's too late. So they don't. And again, this is just the reality. It doesn't make people bad. They just don't get it. They don't spend the time to understand. In fact, they create a bigger problem, right? So if you put a couch or a bed on the couch, so this is where the dog lays all day because he likes to look at the window. Many times I go to people's houses that have serious behavioral problems, and as soon as I walk in the door, there's a big full view storm door that's open, and they say, yeah, we like Fido to lay here when we're at work or whatever, so he can see all the what's going on outside, because you want to see outside. You want to see your beautiful lawn. You want to see your garden. Dogs don't see it that way. They just see it as a territory that if there's an intruder, they have to react.
That needs protection.
Right. He doesn't care about the azaleas. He doesn't care about the lawn, manicured lawn. So, like you said, the problem with domestic dogs is we've removed them from their natural pack. So if they had other litter mates or other pack members, they would be working cooperatively. And they might very well be very silent because barking for a pack of dogs creates sometimes danger. So what people have to understand is just simply make it a little bit easier, make their life a little easier. Teach them to go to a room or to a bed when there's stimulation outside.
Right. So this is where crate training comes in, and we're huge proponents of. So I think step number one is to just don't allow your dog to have the opportunity to just kind of have free reign of the house and bark out the window and bark out the door. What you can do is prevent that in your home. And also the way to do that is to use the crate to some degree, or a bed, and to teach your dog to go place. And it takes away the anxiety for the dog.
Anxiety. Right? And dog bites occur when dogs are in a state of anxiety.
Right.
How do you know when they're in anxiety? When they're barking. So barking is some level of anxiety, one way or the other, whether it's happy anxiety over stimulation or they're fearful of something. So remove that. Domestic dogs, and I know I get a lot of people look at me like I'm crazy, but dogs shouldn't be barking. They shouldn't be barking because they should be in a balanced, relaxed state of mind. So, and the problem is we do things, we put a sign, and this is what gets me crazy at the airports and so forth. We project all of our need. We take an animal whose brain is incapable of making moral decisions. It's incapable of prejudice. It's incapable of anything. And now we want them to watch TV with us at night. We want to go for a jog on the beach with them. We want to take them, shove them under our front seat on a Southwest Airlines flight. And we want them to be the moral protector of our house. So I can't tell you how many times I go and people, and these are very smart. I get it. They're like, I want my dog to bark when somebody's outside. So they're encouraging that.
Right.
I go, where's Daddy? Who's outside? And the dog goes ballistic. But then when your next door neighbor comes or the Girl Scouts come to sell cookies and the 12-year-old kids get bit by your dog,
Right, the dog doesn't know the difference. He can't tell the difference between
a Girl
people.
Scout to a burglar.
Yeah, so we're putting our dogs in constant state of conflict, and also setting themselves up for failure to some degree.
Jackie, again, you hit the nail on the head. Let's segue into closing this segment, because this is what we do at Houndstown USA. When the world is going crazy, COVID, everything is going crazy, we at Houndstown provide the natural place for dogs to come.
Right.
We set up a balanced pack of dogs that play and interact all day with each other without doorbell ringings, without us screaming at them to sit or to stay. They hump, jump, and dump.
And that is truly what they want to do.
That's what they want to do.
I think the socialization, it's not only about socializing your dog with other dogs, right? When they come here regularly, they get to socialize with all of our employees.
Right.
They get to understand and get used to noises, gates slamming,
Right.
a doorbell system. And what we hear a lot from our customers is when the dog goes home, not only is he tired, right? That's obviously a huge value, but he's more well adjusted to the home environment.
Of course.
There's less separation anxiety. Right. There's less anxiety in general. There's less barking. There's less jumping. So, it kind of really just helps settle a dog, overall, and help him live a psychologically well-balanced life.
Psychologically well-balanced. If we think of it this simply, everything in our environment, whether it's glass doors, carpeting, tiles, vacuum cleaners, air conditionings, fans, bicycle, cars, these are foreign objects to a dog. Unless it's dirt, grass, trees, vegetation, that's what is a natural environment for a dog. So when we bring them, domesticate them, and selfishly bring them into our home, and we start to treat them as though they're humans, we think we're doing a great thing, but we're really confusing them and creating anxiety. On that note, Jackie, tell the world how they can listen to this. Tell the two people that listen to this where
your two distant cousins.
Oh, wait, who? No, I have a lot. I didn't know this. Joe Fitzgerald and his beautiful wife Kathleen are regular listeners.
Right, those are your two.
I was shocked. They're West Coasters, and they listen to us here. And so
they've listened to every single one of our podcast episodes. So shout out to Joe and Kathleen. You guys are great.
Well, just some advice. Get a life. If you listen to this show, you're either drinking heavily, something's wrong.
Right? Too much time on your hands.
Too much time on your hands. Maybe they're denning because of the winter. Maybe when the spring comes, people will go out. Okay, we're getting this wrap-up thing. Go ahead.
Tune in to the Dish on Dogs podcast every Monday at 8 p.m. You can find us on the Dish on Dogs on Facebook. You can also find us on the Dish on Dogs on YouTube, as well as iTunes and Spotify. We'll see everybody next week.
Excellent, Jack.